We see that from May and since July, we saw the first signals of pushback on EUDR for this year, because we also had some pushback on the last year of EUDR implementation. This started with a couple of countries, 11 to be precise, asking the Commission to weaken the EUDR rules, asking for also the introduction again of the no-risk category. And we also saw 18 different agricultural ministers complaining that full traceability will be not possible to be achieved by companies, and they also required that low-risk countries get more simplifications. After summer recession and a quiet summer from EU Commission side, back in September, we see Roswell's letter, where she's requesting in the Parliament a one-year delay due to the incapability of the IT system to manage the requirements for EUDR implementation. Of course, this from September till up to last week actually created a lot of mixed responses in Brussels when we saw political stances against and for this proposal. For example, we saw Vice President Teresa Ribera speaking out against this delay along with other members of the parliament, while on the other side, for example, we saw the Agriculture Minister of Germany stating that this delay was the only way to enable the further simplifications that were needed based on his opinion. And also on the corporate world, we saw some responses. For example, 17 major companies sending a letter to Mrs. Roswell asking for EUDR to not be delayed and claiming that by trying to simplify things for them, they might even create more costs for them. And this led us to last week's event where on the 21st, the Commission moves on and creates a formal proposal, which is proposing amendments that we haven't seen discussed before. It aims at introducing new and simplified roles and responsibilities across the chain. It also aims at adjusting the implementation timeline for small and micro companies, and it also aims at providing a grace period of enforcement for the penalties. Simpler rules and for small producers was something that has been requested by the different EU countries and agricultural ministers. And as we see with these amendments, mainly the EU smallholders are the ones that will face lighter administrative requirements, which is also the political hint that we have been getting for the last months. Then, with the rebalanced due diligence that will be introduced by shifting the responsibility from across the chain to the primary producers, we see that now the responsibility will lie mainly at the beginning of a supply chain, while the rest of the companies will have to just make sure traceability stays intact. And also the phased implementation means that the EU will now prioritize adapting over starting giving penalties in order to give time both to the competent authorities and to the companies to test, learn, get the feedback from the competent authorities and adjust before full enforcement starts. So the first point they're trying to cover is the constant concerns and feedback from the public consultations that currently there was that the burden on small companies having to face same responsibilities as bigger companies was disproportionate. Of course, this now is being balanced out a little bit, but we have to understand that not a very, very big part of these companies will actually be exempt when we do the deep dive into the new categories. Now, the second goal of EU Commission with these amendments is to safeguard the operability of the IT system. We saw that the first formal discussions had to do with the incapability of the IT system to hold the requirements. However, we also need to be a little bit critical about it, since a month ago we had the Commission requesting more time to prepare the IT system, and now with the new amendments, we see that there will be a need for even new features in this IT system that will be created. And lastly, which frankly I agree a lot on, is that these amendments really do not reopen the environmental commitments of the EUDR. I think the core of the EUDR stays intact, and we're focusing more on how we can make enforcement more workable and more efficient. As we said, this is just a proposal, even if it is the most formal one we have seen before, and the next steps are that the Parliament, in one of their next meetings, needs to vote for or against these amendments. If they vote for the amendments, the Council also needs to have their time to vote and accept the amendments. In case the Parliament rejects, then we go back to the drawing board, and it's up to the Commission to decide if they're going to send a new set of amendments or not. But in case the Council also doesn't vote for it, then we go into the trilogue phase where the three institutions need to get together, negotiate, and agree on a middle ground between all these. Of course, the amendments will only be official when they get publicated on the Official Journal of the European Union. And one interesting point is that the Parliament or the Council can accept or reject part of these amendments. So the end result might be, as we see it right now, but it could also be a set of these potential amendments, or maybe some last-minute additions from the Commission side before the Parliament happens. We saw this also happening last year, where half of the amendments were dropped just before the vote started. Interestingly enough, this took 2.5 months last year, so we should expect a lot of flexibility from our side, as most probably the updates will come very, very last minute.